Hello, everyone, and welcome to Musings from Japan, number 47.
40,
I'm
47.
47. Hi, watashi Mark Marin desu.
私はグレッグ・テイラーです。
Yoroshiku onegaishimasu, Kuregi.
よろしくお願いします。
And hi, everyone. Welcome back. We haven't done this in a long time, so if Greg and I are a little bit, razzled or frazzled, it's because we haven't done this in a long time.
We're also having technical problems from my end, from my internet. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, his internet is on fire. It's cooking. So bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, and friends, and everyone out there in the YouTube land. So, and I want to mention also that this is going to be a double recording, right, Greg?
That's right.
Yeah,
Tell me about it, Mark.
I'll tell you about it right now. I have a podcast called Sakura Scholars that I'm doing from my school, and it features life in Japan and things about Japan that I'm introducing to. Primarily, the focus group is like young teens and young adults in America. So this is also going to be simulcast on Sakura Scholars. So thank you for joining, and I hope that all of you out there, if you're watching this, that if you ever want to check it out at the when you see the link on YouTube for the Musings in Japan number 47, you will see the link for the Sakura Scholars, and you can jump on there anytime. So, all right, Greg, are you ready? You're the
I'm
subject
ready.
today. You're the subject today. So,
Okay.
well, first of all, we have to do the weather because that's our musings thing. So, how's the weather, Greg? Tell me about the weather.
Well, being that it's rainy season, it's raining here in Japan. It's raining at my home right now. It's chilly. The weather's actually quite cool, and it's been raining all day. So it's kind of I'm here in my house in Aichi Prefecture, and I got the blur thing on, but it's kind of dark in my house. But I got the light off so I can. I don't know. But then my laundry's over there because it's raining. So we brought the laundry inside so we don't dry it outside.
My jacket's up there. I'm in
Oh,
my
great.
office. I'm in my office, so I hang my jacket up there. So, wow. So
Yeah. So the
raining.
weather's pretty chilly today. It's surprisingly cool. It's raining,
Well, that's
and
good for you.
oftentimes during the rainy season when it rains, it's warm, but today's cool.
Yeah,
So
enjoy it because it's going to get worse. So here it rained a little bit this morning, but it's just kind of cloudy, but it's going to come tonight. So the rain that you're getting is coming up to us tonight. So
22 degrees right now, Celsius.
22. Wow,
Yeah.
that is kind of what is it here? I'll check my little weather app. Press the button here, and what does it say? 23. Yeah, 23. It's the same temperature, Greg, basically.
Nice day today.
Yeah. So, so Greg, you have just come back from your work abroad in
Yes,
America, at
in
least,
America.
and you've come back. And so, what I want to do today is I want to focus on how it is, coming back from America and then coming to Japan, then going back. And so, we had done a musings before when you come and returned. Now this is the second time. So what I want to do is ask some specific questions and get your feeling, especially as a person now who's kind of international. You're an international kind of guy. You have two minds now. You have a Japanese mind and an American mind. So I want to see how
Hmm.
these things are, how the wheels are spinning up there. So first question, what's the biggest difference or change it is for you now of trying to go and live in two different cultures?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
that it's you got to have flexibility. So I'm
Mm,
flexible. I have been living in America. I returned to America almost 2 years ago. So it was um, beginning of autumn 2021,
Right.
and um, and then this is my second time back. My first time was the winter break of 22,
Hmm.
and I returned to America on the 3rd or the 4th of January 2023, and now I'm back here. It's June of, so I'll just say the date. It's June of 2023. So
Yeah. So.
it's been 6 months since I was back, and last time I was back for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Hmm.
This time I'm back for more than a month. I'm back for 5 weeks, but it's good. I guess that it's easier every time I come, or every time. Actually, I lived here for so long that I got used to life in Japan, and it was
Right.
almost like the opposite, where I had culture shock going back to America.
How long?
Uh,
How long had you lived in Japan before you went back to America the first time?
the first time was 4 years. Yeah, it
Four
was
years
four
straight. 4 years
years
straight.
straight. Yeah, uninterrupted living in Japan, and
Hmm.
that was only for maybe 10 days. So I was
Right.
there for 10 days, and then I I I came back to Japan, and I didn't go back until that was 2017.
Right.
So then I went back for for work
So
in
another 4 years
2021.
later. So another 4 years later
Another
in
four
Japan.
years, yeah. So I really got acclimated to life in Japan. I mean, I was in Japan so long that automobile styles changed completely from the
Yeah.
time I moved to Japan, from the time I returned to America, and so many things had changed, and even I noticed some things in Japan are changing. So
Right. Right.
um, I think that let's see, what one was, I was talking to my wife about one thing. I can't remember what it was, but things have changed a little bit. So
Hmm. Okay. So and then this time, so you're coming back in the summertime. So before you, like you said, you came in during the winter break. So it was a shorter, a couple weeks, and then you went back to work. But now that you come on the summer break, so you finished the year, you went through the graduation or the end of the year of American school. And how does it feel right now for you?
it feels like I'm home for me.
Oh, good, good, good.
And I'm because my family's here, and my wife and kids, and it was very easy for me to acclimate or reacclimate to Japan living.
Right, right. Yeah,
Um,
so you had no trouble. Okay, and let me get to that point then. Now, what about the language? Because I know that some foreigners who have lived here for a while and they go back and they come back, they have a trouble adjusting the language again or getting used to the language. Did you have any problems with that?
no, not really, because when I needed it, it came back. And
Hmm.
what's interesting about learning a language, at least in my experience, is that sometimes your brain needs a while for the information to rest in your brain and to nurture and to basically like a stew, and just get into your brain, and then it's like input into your brain, and then
Right.
then output comes later. I have noticed though that I have forgotten some vocabulary, and so I just ask. I said, "So what does such and such mean?" And
Hmm.
I forget, and some of it's words that I used all the time when I was living here. And so for the most part, my language is still here, but it's as I said, the vocabulary has kind of uh, I don't want to say dwindle, but the vocabulary is kind of
It's in the
been
back.
forgotten.
It maybe not forgotten, but just because you haven't used it, it's kind of like put to the side. And so you need the
Yeah,
situations to dig it back out again, basically.
that's right. And I
Yeah.
think what I'm planning on doing during this time that I'm here is doing some individual studying, and
Hmm.
but definitely speaking Japanese whenever I can and watching it whenever I can.
Well, let me ask you that. This is, I know that you went and got a haircut and
Yeah,
you went back to your barber that you've gone
my
to
my barber,
before.
it was like going home.
So how was it describing what you wanted to get done and how
No
the
problem.
vocabulary, all the vocabulary came back? It was natural to
Pretty
you.
much, it was very natural. I felt very welcome. Felt very at home. It was felt very at ease in my barber shop. I just noticed that one thing that they did, they used to give a shave. I like you know, maybe one day I don't shave, so because I'm
Right.
not working here right now. So I wanted to shave, but I couldn't get one. And they have a ticket machine where you buy your ticket before you go to the barber, and you buy a
Hmm.
ticket. And then that's the way some shops are in Japan, some restaurants, and you know, you have a machine where you buy a ticket, and then
Right.
you don't have to worry about paying for the check. You just give them the ticket, and it's done.
Right.
So I was looking for a ticket that said Kamisori.
Kamisori, yeah,
Yeah.
kamisori or
So, but
higesori.
they don't have that anymore, and they had it before the pandemic, and then since the
Ah.
pandemic, they stopped it. However, I could get Mayu Kitty.
Hmm.
So Mayu is eyebrows, so I could get my eyebrows cut and my forehead shaved, and then maybe, but they didn't offer the Kamisori, the
Uh-huh.
facial.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
think the pandemic, that was one of the things that was different. But I had no problems communicating with my barber, and it was great because it's almost like that we're friends.
did they remember you?
Very very familiar. It's like there's nothing that's forgotten. It's like
Nice,
this
nice.
place.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. That's good service stuff. I don't want to be negative or I don't want to sound negative, but how would you compare your barber experience here compared to a barber experience in America or in California specifically?
Um, well, let's just say the exchange rate, for example, is very good between the yen and the dollar right now.
Right,
Uh, as of this broadcast, it's approximately 140 yen.
right.
Let's just say round a nice figure right there. It's 140 yen to the dollar.
Hmm.
So I get a huge discount on whatever I buy in American dollars that's converted to Japanese yen. But having said that, the experience in a Japanese barber is so much more personable and nicer than say an American haircut place typically, because you used to get this kind of a treatment in American barbers, but American barbers have been going down in number, you know, for years now. So it's so I
Well,
would get my hair cut at a fast haircut place like Supercuts or Great Cuts or something like that, and the service is just nothing compared. It's very personable here in Japan, believe it or not.
well, yeah, yeah, I didn't want to go down that route, but yeah, but the Japanese service is always good and they ask you everything. Every step that you go, they ask you, do you want this? Do you need this? Right? They always ask you, right? Would you like
Yeah,
your eyebrows cut?
it gives me a good opportunity to practice my Japanese. And if I
Right,
don't understand, explain it to me.
right,
So I mean, I just use basic Japanese to I tell them I don't understand, or tell them what does that mean, and then they tell me, and then so then I get it.
right, right.
Um, you know, but now my Japanese is at a level where I can converse somewhat fluently, I suppose.
Good, good.
So it's a great thing, and it's just by the fact that I use my Japanese whenever I can,
Okay.
even here at home. My wife is Japanese. My children are going to school here in Japan. So it's I'm using Japanese whenever I can.
Hmm. That's good. So, no, okay, let's talk about the food differences. Because we talked, just the culture stuff, but what about the food? I mean, obviously American food and Japanese food are different, but how do you feel now that you're eating Japanese food every day again? How does it
Well,
feel?
for me, it's almost like I'm home. So
That's the main point.
I mean, I
But
tonight.
I'm thinking more like the taste, the quality, the I don't know, maybe some,
Well,
in
it's
this?
something I appreciate very much. I appreciate the quality of service in the restaurants.
Mhm.
It's one thing that I went back to America after having lived here for 8 years, and then I noticed that the service and quality have declined in the restaurants, particularly because they are unable to get enough help often in restaurants, and so you're not getting what you used to get, say, 20 or 30 years ago in service, and
Right.
and even the quality of the food preparation. But here in Japan, it's still fantastic,
Yeah.
and
What about
very polite.
what about home cooking?
Home cooking. I'm having yakisoba for dinner tonight.
Oh, so do you miss your wife's cooking?
I missed my wife's cooking, and now I have it. Like, here I am. I'm back with my family, and we're having yakisoba for dinner after she gets home from work today. So I'm really looking
Excellent.
forward to that.
Okay.
Last night we went out to Hamazushi. The,
Yeah.
so we had some great Japanese sushi, and that was a lot of fun. Um,
Yeah. What about I mean, I'm not sure if people understand the cost difference. I mean, the sushi compared to California sushi.
well, this sushi it's almost like fast food sushi, but
Oh,
you sit in a
yeah.
restaurant, and the conveyor belt brings you the or the I don't know what you call it. At
You have
this point,
a little train that comes out.
yeah, it's kind of like a train, or it's on this on the in this case, it's on a car, but
Right.
or a plate. It's actually just a plate. So so at Hamazushi, it was great, and surprisingly, with the cost of the yen, their prices have not changed over the years. Really, it's stayed constant. And
Yep.
and for me though, there was three of us at dinner because one of our family members stayed home. Our daughter, because she's studying for final tests at school.
Good for her.
Dinner for three of us at this sushi restaurant was 14 US dollars.
Now think about that. Where can you take a family of three in United States today and have a nice dinner? And we're talking fish. We're talking fresh fish. It's not frozen, and we're talking fresh fish, fresh cooked rice. You know, for $14.
$14.
Where can you do that in America?
And plus, I mean,
Well,
my God,
where can you do that in
well, you
America?
can't.
Yeah, see that, and that's yeah.
And also I went and had Starbucks. Yesterday I had a tall caramel macchiato at Starbucks. In a mug. In Japan in Starbucks they serve it in a mug, and it had whipped cream and the caramel on glaze, the
Yeah.
sauce on top, and the syrup or whatever. Well, that cup of Starbucks coffee cost me a sum total of $3.42 US, and it
And
was
you can get another one for 80 cents or something, like 100 yen, right? You can get another with your receipt. You can get another one if you
oh
want.
yeah, like another Nick's visit or something.
Right. So like 80
So
cents or something off.
it's a huge bargain for an American right now. It's a massive bargain.
Right.
If you
And
if you have money that you take from the United States, like you withdraw here at an
right,
ATM, or
right.
you use a card. And plus, I'm using these cards that have no transaction fees whatsoever. But even with the exchange rate of the US dollar to the yen, um, you almost it doesn't matter if you have that 3% transaction fee or not, because the yen is so weak and the American dollar is so strong. So it's been a
Mm,
really good thing for me, because I'm really getting a bang for my buck here in Japan while I'm
excellent.
here this
Excellent.
5 weeks.
Okay. Now, let me ask a couple more questions. So, um, what have you learned now that you've been back and forth? What kind of things have you learned about Japan that you've maybe grown to appreciate more, or you weren't sure about, but now I got it now. Is there anything about
Oh,
Japan that you learned?
that's a good question. It's hard to say, but I'll tell you one thing that I know is that because I've been spending time in Japan, um, and I've traveled back and forth now, and I've come to realize that Japanese, despite the great distance, or not the distance, but there is a significant difference in culture.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, we're a lot more alike than you realize.
Right.
And
Right.
and so for example, the other night I went out to dinner with my wife's cousin, and she's a
Hmm.
medical doctor,
Hmm.
and we had a great time. It was a truly great time spending time with my wife and her cousin. And this coming Sunday, I'm going to go to Komeda's Coffee and have coffee with my wife's friend. My wife has another friend who I've met numerous times, and we have a great time. Um, I've realized how, sometimes you know the difference in cultures that you see all the time. Um, we're a lot more alike than I've thought in the past.
That's a good observation. Yeah. So do you mean like the personalities of Japanese people or the character of Japanese people is very
I
similar
think,
to what you had before?
yeah, I think Japanese have a certain thing that they have to carry on in public.
Hmm.
You know, for example, there's a certain way you behave at work. Work
Right.
cultures are often very strict,
Right.
formal cultures, um, but that's a much more formal than American work environments.
Right. Right.
So, but yet, when the Japanese let their hair down, they can relax just like anybody, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel so different when that happens. When you've met a person, or you get to become friends enough with a person that you can enjoy each other, um, on a different level. And
Right.
so that's one thing I'm noticing more and more. The longer, it took a long time for me to experience that, really, I think. And I heard that long time ago that you couldn't have friends in Japan. That there was the difference between our culture and their culture, and that no friends, it wasn't going
It
to work
was,
out that way.
I heard that. I remember it because I remember people telling, Japanese are very aloof or they don't get close. And so it's difficult to have close friendships, but completely opposite.
Yeah, actually, it can definitely be that way, and it was when I started experiencing close friendships. It was a very rewarding feeling, and I think, uh, yeah, I really enjoyed life in Japan. I have noticed that we're not as far apart culturally in many
Mm.
ways that you might think. So, I mean,
Excellent. That's
you
great.
can
Yeah.
use your sense of humor in Japanese,
Hmm.
um, and it may be funny in Japanese as well. Um, so it's pretty interesting.
Wow. Nice. And that last question that I'm going to ask, and this 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 might not you might not have an answer yet for this, and that's okay. So, what do you think is the best thing about living in Japan? Have or you
Well,
might
and
not have
also
experienced it yet. So I don't
that
know.
I might, even after 10 years. And by the way, Mark, it
Hmm.
might be interesting to note you and I have experienced Japan for more than 40 years now, because
It
you and
was
I
That's right. It was 40
first
years
came
ago
40 years ago this year. We came to Japan in May, and we were here
last
in
month.
Japan for most of the month of May.
Yeah,
And
think about that, huh? That's right. It's the 40th anniversary of our first visit to Japan.
yeah, so back to your question, what was your question again?
I
So
forgot. No, what's the best thing about living in Japan that you've experienced?
I realized, I guess, how much I didn't know
Oh,
about things, and it really opened my eyes up to learning, and also to be more accepting. And because Japan, yes, it's a different culture, so you have to be aware of the fact that it is a different culture, and you have to understand that your needs maybe aren't as important as what the group needs, or you really learn to adjust, and your life is much happier if you do.
Mm, mm,
If you learn how to adjust to the Japanese way, because I'm not here to force my beliefs or culture on Japanese people, because this is Japan. So I think that's one of the things that I learned after all my experiences. There's just so much.
mm,
I thought I loved the food before I came, and I did, but I hadn't experienced all the richness of the different regions of Japan and the different varieties of food and where they come from. For
mm.
example, Hamamatsu is famous for its white gyoza,
Right.
and what's let's see, Sapporo. My wife's cousin lives in Sapporo on Hokkaido, and they have Sapporo ramen, the
Mm,
noodles. Just there's just so many things. Japan is a country rich in culture, and I might add something like that. Everybody knows the samurai, the
mhm,
history of the samurai, and how it's one of the defining things of Japan. Well, the town where I'm living in, I should say my family lives here. Our town is a very famous town because it was the birthplace of one of the greatest persons in the history of the Japanese culture, um, Tokugawa Ieyasu,
He's
and
one of the big three that united Japan.
Japan, and so hugely important to the history of Japan, and so right now on NHK television, there's a drama, a TV drama, a taiga drama,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
called what do we do, or what do you do, Ieyasu in
Hmm.
English, and it's about the life of Tokugawa Ieyasu, and it's a huge hit on NHK, and it's been running since January. Well, I finally saw it the other night, and then we went to the Okazaki Castle because it's a castle town, and
Hmm.
they have this museum where they give a big presentation on the drama. They have a souvenir shop, and they have just all kinds of things going on there. And there's tourists from all over Japan who've come to Okazaki because of this drama. So that's pretty cool.
Hmm. You know what I like about Japan, in when you're talking about that, is that there is an active interest, which is kind of funky, but it's an active interest, and we're not talking a casual thing like in America, or in the UK, especially I'm thinking BBC documentaries where they have people like watch history documentaries or the National Geographic Channel. We're talking NHK, which is a public television station. So it's for everybody. And everyone loves these dramas because they love recounting their history. They love looking at their history. They love learning about their history. And every year they update them, they check them, and they update the information. Oh, this happened. Oh, and this was another thing. And like you said, you live in the castle town. You live in an area where these people were active when the history was being made, and the community still embraces that history. And we're talking, what, 400 years ago or
Yeah, it's
more
it's
in
really
some
quite
cases?
amazing. It's also quite amazing to learn that these epic battles took place right in the area where I live
Right, right where
and where
your
my
parking
family
lot
is.
is, right where your parking lot is. There are thousands of
It's
people could have died,
right, or tens of thousands.
or tens of. Yeah, it's true. I think that one of the, I can't remember which battle. They had one battle where the Japan united the largest land force of that time. It was like over 100,000 people to fight. It's like amazing in your area. It's amazing.
And what's
So,
interesting is the outside the castle there was
mhm.
a man dressed in a costume, in a samurai costume, and I asked him in Japanese. I said, so who are you? And well, he pulled out his business card, but it was kind of humorous because his business card was his name, but it was the character's name,
Right.
Honda Tadakatsu, Honda
Tadaka,
Tadakatsu.
Honda Tadakatsu. Hi.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he was the one of the leading generals for the under generals for
Ah,
Tokugawa Ieyasu,
yes. So,
and
oh, okay.
he was in almost every battle that took place during
Hmm.
that time, and
Hmm.
he was a great warrior, and you know, even he's still famous all throughout Japan. So
Excellent. So, well, see, that's, those are the kind of things I like to hear because some of the best things about Japan are so simple, like getting a haircut, or going to a restaurant, having good service, eating quality food for a cheap price, or learning the history of where you live. I mean, every day I experience that here in Japan, and I've been here
I I
30 years.
I I would not recommend anybody move to Japan because sometimes life is not easy here. But
Hmm.
I do recommend that if you have the willingness to stick with something and not give up, you know, if
Hmm.
it's a dream of yours, follow your dream. You know,
Right, right.
that's what I did because it was always a long, you know, for the past 40 years, it's been a dream of mine to live in Japan, and I actually did it. So, um, and so now I'm like bicultural in terms of the where I live. My home is
Hmm.
here. My home really is here in Aichi Prefecture because my family's here, and so yeah, but then I have my home in America as well. So I basically have two places that I'm attached to, and that's
Right.
kind of rare, I think. You know, but it's my life, and it's a good life.
Great, great. That's a perfect way. Yeah, it is, Greg. You're leading a good life, and it's really nice to see. So, I think we should end it there. What do you think?
I think so. I hope that if anybody's listening to this, um, um, this or watching our musings from Japan,
Yeah,
or listening to Sakura Scholars, that I provide some information and I provide some inspiration, maybe, you know, in
yeah,
terms of uh, that if you're someone who's thinking about studying Japanese, uh, um, keep thinking about it and maybe do something about it.
yeah. And take the chance. Come here. I mean, we came here 40 years ago, and look what happened to us. We're
And
still here.
I took a chance. I took a chance of following a lifelong dream later in
Hmm.
my life by coming here and then working
Right.
and studying Japanese. More importantly, studying Japanese. I studied Japanese, which is something I seriously had always wanted to do, and I took that opportunity and I seized it.
And I can honestly say, Greg, that I've seen your study of Japanese here since you've been here, and it's for me, it's very impressive what you've done in Japanese and how you live. And I always, when I hear you speak Japanese, inside of me, I go, yeah, Greg, good job.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like almost like a secret code you and I have between us. We can speak in Japanese to each other and
Nah.
use our Japanese skills. And I remember when I came here, I even remember when I came in the early 2000s, and you were a high school principal here in Japan, and you showed me around, and you provided a place for me to stay while I was here for about
Mm,
6 weeks.
yeah.
Um, I, 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 I just remember that experience, and I remember how I was impressed with your Japanese language skills at that time. And
Yeah, that was a long
it,
time ago. It's a lot
it's,
better now, at
but
least.
it's strange that I don't need those skills necessarily anymore. That I have my own skills, and
Right.
that I have my own life of living in Japan and learning Japanese.
And that's a good point because I think those who are listening who might be interested in studying Japanese or learning and coming to live in Japan or to challenge trying to start the Japanese. Japanese is a very personal language. There are even here, there are many Japanese people you'll see across the country, of course, but they all speak their kind of Japanese, which is nice. There is a national, a standard
Dialect
that everyone
standard, yeah.
ado- Yeah, there's a standard Japanese, but everyone has a dialect, and it's so cool.
Even in my region, in Nagoya, and I mean, just a very small area. It has its own dialect,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
called Mikawa Ben.
Right. Ben
And
would be
because
dialect
this used to be Mikawa province, I believe,
way
and
back. Yeah.
way back, yeah, in the time of the samurai, and it has its own dialect here, which is totally different than than Kyoto's dialect, which is
Mhm.
different than Osaka's dialect. And these areas are just a short bullet train ride from here.
I mean, we're talking, yeah, very close. I mean, Japan's an island for, for all that matters. I mean, just an island. But on this island, there are hundreds of dialects. So, and everyone likes that because that is their
Yeah, but there's
cultural identity.
247 different clans, I believe, and they're all united several hundred years ago. So into
That's
one
right.
country.
But they still keep their cultural identity in a way, with the dialect and stuff. So,
That's
anyway,
right.
Greg. Anyway, Greg. Well, thank you so much. This was great, and I think I think your words will inspire many people. I hope that's what I want. So thank you for Musings from Japan with Greg, featuring Mark Marin and Greg Taylor.
Greg Taylor. Yeah.
That's
Thank you
right,
very much. Number
and
47.
47 in Sakura Scholars. This will be Greg's advice to the world. Ta 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 ta. So, anyway, thank you very much, everyone. Arigato gozaimasu, Greg.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Otsare-sama deshita. So, minasan, as we say, sayonara.
Sayonara.